Hello and welcome back to another video of me continuing discussions on my favorite TV shows and what it was about that show that attracted me to it in the first place. This time around I'm going to delve into science fiction, which I will warn is a genre that I really do love, and there are a lot of science fiction shows that will make the list of favorites. To a point where people go, "Is there any you don't like?" And it's like, well, sure there are, but I like the genre of science fiction and in many of its subgenres as well. So this time I'm going into space opera though, and there are a few to choose from, but I thought of going for one that isn't normally the tippy top of people's lists when they think of science fiction space operas. Or it could be. I could be wrong. But this is a show that its overall construction and execution I thought was pretty damn good, like near perfect, despite everything that was going against them with networks and things like that. So join me as we travel to the third age of mankind into neutral space, to our last best hope for peace. The name of the place is Babylon 5. So Babylon 5 has a really interesting setup. It's a space station that was built in neutral territory. It's designed as a place for diplomacy and commerce where different races can meet and basically talk and get ideas together and not get involved in a conflict or wars, because 10 years earlier Earth and a race called the Minbari got into a really devastating war which nearly ended with Earth's destruction. And at the 0 hour the Minbari just stopped and pulled back and then requested a diplomatic solution and peace, and Earth's like, we don't know why, but we'll take it. So because of stuff like that, and the new commander of the station in the pilot, Commander Sheridan, who was involved in one of the big battles with the Minbari, has basically a hole in his mind. He has time missing. He doesn't know what happened from when his ship was captured to when he was found by the Earth Alliance. So they give you hooks really quickly into it. It's like, okay, well, the Minbari are really powerful. They seem very noble, but it's like, what caused the war? You do find that stuff out as the show goes on. And it's one of the, and it is one of those sort of instances where it's like, whoops, because races have different ways of dealing with stuff, especially with First Contact. It was a mistake and things went bad. And as I said, nearly ended up in the annihilation of Earth. So you have really interesting hook points. Now, this is the 5th station, so there were obviously 4 before it. 3 of them were sabotaged and were destroyed before construction was completed, and the 4th vanished after coming online. So they give you these great hooks, sort of like, what happened to Commander Sinclair? What had the Battle of the Line? What happened to stop the Minbari from annihilating Earth? Where did Babylon 4 go to? And these answers do happen, like, as the show goes on. You do get everything you want, but it's a good way to get you going. Now the pilot was I got into straight away. I knew someone who knew someone basically who had a copy of it on VHS before it came out. He knew someone in the industry, and they sent a VHS copy which had Babylon 5's pilot and time tracks, like about 6 months before it was released on video. And so we got to see it early, and I was like, wow, this is pretty good. Now I was used to Star Trek and stuff like that, so I'm getting in at the ground level of a new show and learning the new mythology straight away. So it was really interesting because the characters are very engaging. You've got your the people who run the station, which is like Commander Sinclair and Security Chief Garibaldi, And then you've got the ambassadors from the alien nations, which is the Minbari, the Narn, the Centauri, and the Vorlons. And they give you all this great flavor from all the different races. The other thing that they did right from the word go, the universe feels lived in straight away. Like the station is, I love the design of the station, but it's got different levels to it, obviously. Like there's industrial levels and there's like all that, but they have a section called Down Below, which is homeless people live there because in the Babylon 5 universe, money still exists. So some people may be able to afford to get to Babylon 5, but not to pay to leave it. So they end up living in the squalor in the down below sections of the station, which is really interesting. The fact that unlike Star Trek, like there's not everything's perfect. It's just one of those things that's what life is like. Some people get left behind or forgotten about, or just and I thought that was really, really interesting about it. Like that level of society, it still exists in this universe. About a year afterwards, they created season 1, and they switched out a few characters because it'd been a year. Some people had, you got to work to eat, so they moved on to other projects. So you get a new Doctor, a new Exo for the station, and everything hits the ground running. Season 1 is one of those getting to know you sort of seasons for the most part, but about the halfway point, they start laying the foundation for the main story, which goes through all of season 2, all of season 3, and half of season 4. And that for me was amazing, because I was used to episodic television, especially with science fiction, and I quite like it. I love episodic television because it's like, I don't necessarily need to know what happened last week to know what's going on this week. But J. Michael Straczynski, the creator of the show, he had everything planned out before they even shot anything. Like, he had it all ready to go. He had a Bible, which he could give anyone who wanted to write an episode and go, there you go. It has to fit that. And they'd go, all right, cool. And they'd come back and go, boom. And and it would either work or they'd go, no, try again. So that was great that they never needed to worry about where they were going, because he knew where it was going. He knew what every character was doing every day of the week. And that is important when you're writing something like this. And it's very rare, too, to be able to get that. The way TV shows these days have showrunners get kicked out, new showrunner takes over, and they go, I'm going to take it in this direction. No, there was only one direction to take Babylon 5. That doesn't mean it's absolutely perfect. Unfortunately, around season 4, they found out they were getting cancelled, so they crammed 2 seasons worth of storytelling into 1 season. So by the end of season 4, they had completed the main story they wanted to tell. And then they got picked up at the 0 hour. So season 5 is a little bit muddled, but it's still very watchable. And the series finale, which they'd filmed at the end of season 4, they just played at the end of season 5. And honestly, it is one of the best finales for a TV show, really, in my opinion. Very rarely do I get a show that ends well. Like, sometimes they'll either peter out or they'll get cancelled. But Babylon 5 had an ending, and it's a great ending. That being said, I mean, after season 5, they did some telly movies. They did a spin-off series called Crusade, which I quite enjoyed. And then after Crusade, they did a few more projects, ending a couple of years ago with an animated project. And I've liked all of the stuff. I mean, even at its lowest, I still love the universe of Babylon 5. Like, they really, really built it well. And it's one of those, it's hard to do, but when you have characters that are just ridiculously well-rounded to the point where they just show up and they're just perfectly formed, it's very rare, as well as having someone who knows the entire story, to have all the characters ready to go. Um, Also, the other thing about all the characters, they have weaknesses. Um, and that's important because I really don't like bulletproof characters who can just run through and don't get hurt, they don't get affected, they're just like completely bulletproof. And this show, there's no character in this show that is not affected by something, whether it's emotional, um, chemical dependence, things like that. They'll do everything, and everybody gets a chance to shine, and all the actors do it so well. Um, Other interesting things they did in the show, as I said, I mean, money still exists, religion still exists in the Babylon 5 universe. All the alien races have their own very unique religions. Religion's still a big thing on Earth. Like, it hasn't been, they didn't take a pill and get rid of it like Star Trek said, or I can't remember who said that in Star Trek, one of the showrunners. Um, but but yeah, it's still an interesting thing, and many of the characters still have beliefs. I believe Sinclair was a Jesuit. So some of the characters really have it's part of who they are, which is great, because that's generally how faith works with people. It is part of who they are. So they give characters everything that they possibly can to exist, and that's why I think it works a lot better in many ways than some of the other science fiction shows, because they cover all the facets of life. Um, the other great thing about it is the design work. Um, and I'll go into two different directions with this, but the makeup for the alien races is brilliant. It's I got no, like I don't get me wrong, I do love Star Trek, and I'm going to draw comparisons to Star Trek quite a bit, but they go a little bit further than just a bumpy forehead or a crinkly nose. They are alien looking. Now, some are humanoid, some are complete, like some might look like a praying mantis, and another. The Vorlons, you have no idea what they look like for quite a while, because they wear these big encounter suits, and they look very, very mechanical. Um, but there are races that the Narn are reptilian looking. They've got red sort of skin with dots on it and stuff like that, and very cool design. The Centauri are humanoid, more humanoid, but have completely different organs and stuff like that. The Minbari probably also look very humanoid, but have like a big bone sort of thing around the back of their head. So yeah, and then there's just other races like the Pakleds and that are just completely different, which is great, which is really good, because it gives you real flavor, and that reflects in not just the makeup of the characters, but the design of their equipment and starships and that. Like, they're completely different. And that's one thing that's great, but sometimes you'll see a show where they'll go, yeah, this is an alien race, and like, it still looks like it was built by humans. It's like, and that's the thing I love about, another things I really love is the architecture and the design work. When they show you the other races' planets, I mean, it is computer generated because you can't build it, but and it was, that's how they save money. But Centauri Prime looks completely different from the Minbari homeworld, which looks completely different from the Narn homeworld, which looks nothing like Earth architecture. And that helps, once again, give all the characters flavor. But Minbari starships look like angelfish. They glide through space. Human ships are big and chunky and have rotating sections to create gravity, because we don't have artificial gravity. So yeah, they give everybody strengths and weaknesses. Like the Minbari are one of the older races that I think they refer to it as, and quite powerful. They were 1,000 years earlier. There was a big galactic war, and they were involved. But compared to the Vorlons, the Minbari are just children, and it's interesting to show that they have like levels of power and technological advancement, and like yeah, there is, it's almost like a car system, which is kind of getting back to the Minbari. They're the other thing that's really cool is about the alien races is yeah, they're political, the way they politically act. The Minbari, let's say, caste system, they actually have a caste system where they have a worker class, a military or warrior caste, and a religious caste, and the three castes operate together as like a perfect trinity. But that doesn't mean they're not the sort that would suffer to their base feelings as well. So yeah, that doesn't make them more superior as from another race. The Narn are a warrior race, but they've been just absolutely obliterated by a war with the Centauri. So they're trying to rebuild their society from basically the Stone Age back. They still have ships and weapons and stuff, but it costs them dearly. The Centauri used to be important, but they're almost considered a joke by the other races, even though they are technologically advanced and that, but no one really takes them too seriously. The Vorlon are feared, and because of their technological advancement, and no one knows anything about them. They're just completely a mystery to everybody. And Earth is like sort of like trying to work everything out and keep the peace at the same time, which is really cool because, you know, the Earth characters are our focal point. We're sort of from their point of view, and it just builds the story really nicely. So J. Michael Straczynski created an incredible universe with Babylon 5, building on importance of story, well created characters, and all the parts move perfectly together to build a really strong whole that is basically Babylon 5, which I wish more shows would take that sort of approach when coming up with an idea. There are plenty of shows that have great concepts and great ideas, and they fall apart because they don't know where it's going or they don't know how to end it. And Straczynski did the important thing of basically going, no, I walked into this knowing exactly where I was going. And even if it got cancelled, he still could have written books and gone, this is what season 4 would have been, season 5. Same with Crusade. Like Crusade only went for 13 episodes and got cancelled. But he knew where season 2 and season 3 were going to go. He knew exactly how it was going to end and how it was going to continue. I'd still love to know the end of that. But, you know, alas not. So yeah, Babylon 5 is incredibly well put together for a show that took a while to get going. Straczynski had been working on it for a while, and no one was really, everyone put it in the too hard baskets. It sounded expensive. They thought it was going to be animated because he used to work on He-Man and She-Ra writing episodes. And they were like, no, I want this to be live action. And they're like, oh, I can't see it. Fortunately, in the early 90s, CGI became readily available. And one of those things I will get in front of too, a lot of people who haven't seen shows, who've lived through these periods and that, may scoff at the effects. And it's like, don't really, just forget about the quality of effects and look at what they're trying to tell you. And that's all you really need to do. For their time, they were great, and they're still pretty good. Like, I mean, yeah, you can look at, as I said, you look at when they go, Minbari Homeworld, and you go, yeah, okay, that's obviously CGI, and it's not like high grade or anything like that, but it's like, okay, I get it. There's buildings and there's this and that, and some people in the background, foreground and background walking around. Great, cool. Same with, but yeah, same with any of the planets. It's like, yeah, okay, it's a yeah, it's a rendered picture. I get it, fine. That being said, the space battles are magnificent as well. Like they really like whatever money they saved on doing sort of just establishing shots, they made up for using in starship battles and stuff like that. Like they are some of the best on television, really. Um, so yeah, the universe, as I said, is straight away lived in, and it doesn't take long to learn who characters are and what their motivations are, which I think is really, really important in a show, and beautifully done with this show. So another couple of things I'd like to chat about is, as I said, the design of spaceships is brilliant. Um, the design of the space station is magnificent. The fact that, as I said, Earth ships are big and chunky and cumbersome looking, still powerful, need rotating sections to create gravity, whereas other races have artificial gravity, which is cool. It gives Earth a limitation, and what they don't have in some technological advancements, they make up for with cunning and guile and tactics. Um, the music is something I really want to talk about too. I think it's Christopher Frankel, did the music for Babylon 5, and it is fantastic. And in the description, I have I have a video which is a link to anyway. All 5 seasons, opening and closing credits, and his music, it just gets you going. It really does. He just his composition for an overture is amazing, but just the incidental music of like, here's a quiet moment, here's a sad moment, here's a frightening moment, it is magnificent. And I loved his music to this show, and it is an important facet of the show as well. Like character, story, design, aesthetic, all important, but with the right composer and the right music, it just brings it all together in a way where you just go, yeah, this show is just beautifully done. It's just, yeah, perfect. And it's very easy to listen to, like just listening to his music. Like I had a couple of the soundtracks back in the day, and it was music you just put on and listen to. It was like, yeah, this is pretty good. It's like just it hits the emotions that it needs to, which is something that, a great composer can do. And it's one of those really, really important things that a lot of people don't think about when they think about TV shows. But I do like a good soundtrack. I do love good music. It's just, I think we all do. I think most of us don't really think about it too often until someone points it out and you go, oh yeah, that music's great. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's one of those unconscious things when you're watching a movie or TV show, that the music is just as important as who's acting, who's directing, what the special effects look like and all that. And Babylon 5's is just, yeah, magnificent. And yeah, it's just, as I said, it just brings it all together into this beautiful fully formed universe that Michael Straczynski gave us. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about some of the characters of this show. Now, Jeffrey Sinclair's character, which is introduced in the pilot and he's through the first season, leaves at the end of season 1. He's like recalled to Earth, and they get a new commanding officer who's played by Bruce Boxleitner, called John Sheridan, and his command style is completely opposite to Sinclair's. like like they were both, in military. They were both in a military sort of um, part of the Earth Alliance, but Sheridan is a captain of a ship, and he was also the only guy responsible for the one victory they had during the Earth Minbari War. And the Minbari don't like him because of it. Like, he decimated one of their ships. But they also know that when Earth puts him in charge, they know that that's going to be a sore point, but they also know that people aren't going to mess with the Babylon 5 station under Sheridan's command because of that, which is a really interesting tactic, and it works really well. So the addition of John Sheridan is great. And the thing is, too, that Straczynski states in one of his audio commentaries on one of the DVDs, his Bible is complete, but he said he added things, what he referred to as trapdoors. So if an actor can't continue, and unfortunately Jeffrey Sinclair, Michael O'Hare, who played Jeffrey Sinclair, couldn't continue on with the show, so he had to leave. So he had these ability to basically go, well, I'm going to swap out Jeffrey Sinclair for John Sheridan. The plot can keep going forward. I just got to tweak who that character is a little bit. Done. And it is flawless. Like, you wouldn't know it wasn't meant to be. So the addition of John Sheridan as the captain is fantastic. The Ivanova, who took over as the XO of the station, is brilliant. She is so good. A friend of mine, I used to joke all the time because she'd constantly be reminding everyone that she's Russian, which is just funny. But she's someone who's not to be trifled with, and she's really, really, really good XO, really solid, commanding officer, and very, very likable. Claudia Christian plays her; she does it just beautifully. The security chief Garibaldi, one of my favorite characters of the show. He played Jerry Doyle plays him. He played him in a way very casual. It's almost natural to him. Like, you believe that he's not saying dialogue. He is Michael Garibaldi, and he is in charge of the security of the space station. So yeah, when he's interrogating someone, he's not, grabbing a phone book and screaming at them. He's very, very calm about it until he needs to really scare someone, and then he'll ratchet it up, and he's really, really good about that. Plus, he has the back of everybody on the station. Like he's very quickly, when his character is introduced and put forward into issues and problems, you just know that character is the one you want at your side when everything goes down, and always reliable. Even when you think he's not going to be reliable, he comes through, and it's so good. Dr. Franklin was the replacement doctor from the pilot to the series going proper. Really good character. Like, he drives home a lot of standard things you want from a doctor, like Hippocratic Oath and ethics and stuff like that. He'll get involved in conflicts with alien races whose religion will basically stop him from performing surgeries and stuff like that, even though he knows that the surgery will save a patient. He'll get in a theological debate and arguments and that. Really, really good stuff. Great character. Let's see, who else is there of the Earth Alliance? They're the main characters. They added in another security officer played by Jeff Conway, who is Zach Allen, who was really, really good. He's a little even more casually sort of like, yeah, this is a good gig. Gets involved in some conspiracies as the show progresses, but is really, really trustworthy and a really great addition to the cast. With the alien ambassadors, they're all fantastic. They're really good. They really are, because they're all different, and they drive that home with the way they act. Londo Mollari, who is the Centauri ambassador, is basically a drunk and for when he's introduced, and he's just like no one cares, no one takes him seriously, and he desperately wants the his people to rise back up to where they were with respect and a certain level of fear, and sort of goes about trying to accomplish that as the show progresses. G'Kar, who is the Narn ambassador, one of the best characters in the show, played beautifully by Andres Katsulas. Apparently he felt really comfortable in the makeup, and he'd spent all day in it. Like he'd just no, it's really comfortable, and apparently it was quite famous to see him outside the studio in full G'Kar makeup. Sneaking a cigarette as people are doing like lot tours, and they go, look, it's G'Kar, which is pretty funny thinking of that. But yeah, his character, he's very angry, and he's very like, because his people have been decimated and that. But yeah, but deep down he's very, very religious and very has a lot of faith, and the evolutions of characters as well, like where Londo starts and where Londo ends, and when G'Kar starts and when G'Kar ends, is two different places, and the journey is magnificent. It really is. Kosh is just what is Kosh? Who are the Vorlons? It's that's just a massive mystery that goes through for quite a lot of the show, right up until when you finally see what they look like out of their encounter suits, it makes sense why they hide. But yeah, it's that's a fascinating sort of revelation. And the Minbari, Delenn, she's great. She gets the thankless task of exposition a lot, because she's really good at it, and plus her race is old. And they were around for the last big war 1,000 years earlier, so she's constantly thousands of years ago. She's really good, but she's really good at it because with her accent and with her she seems very gentle, but you wouldn't want to mess with her because it's just you'll lose. But she's very gentle and very, very calm, and because she's part of the religious caste. But she has the knowledge, and she is constantly giving that knowledge to everybody. And when I put the pictures up, for those who don't know the show, there are two photos of Mira Furlan as Delenn. One has she's got like a skull cap thing and the thing. The other one, she's got hair. There is a reason for it, and her character does go through a change in between season 1 and season 2. Which is very integral to the plot. The alien races, the core ones, the diplomats, are really, really all unique and all interesting. They all have an offsider or an assistant. Delenn has Lanier, who's played by Bill Mumy. I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced. I could be wrong. Could be Mumi. But people will recognize as Will Robinson from Lost in Space. He has not aged a heck of a lot over his life. He's I think he's a Highlander. He's great. He's another member of the religious caste. He is dedicated to Delenn in just huge ways. Londo has Veer Koto. Veer is amazing. Veer is one of those... Stephen Furst played him. People remember from Animal House. Veer is like one of those characters that you can't help but love. Like, he is so likable. He is friendly. He is complete opposite of Londo. He does care about his people, but he believes that his people should aspire to become, what they used to be the right way, and not using war and conflict and horrors. He is just, he's just lovable. He really is. That's the best way to describe Veer. And Veer has one of the best interactions with one of the best villains of the show, which I'm not going to go into detail, but it is one of the most scathing responses that Vera's ever had to this guy, and the fallout from it is absolutely brilliant. So yes, Vera talking to Mr. Morden. Those who know what I'm talking about will probably laugh about it, and it's just great, so good. Jakar has an offsider, Natoff, I think is her name. Two different women played her over the series, and she's pretty good. She doesn't get to do quite as much as Vera or Lanier, but still great characters. They also added a thing in third series was Marcus Cole, who was part of the Rangers, which is a warrior group from the Minbari. They're humans trained by the Minbari in Minbari martial arts and tactics and stuff like that. And so basically Jedis. But he's great because he's got a very cavalier approach, and once again, very likable, very fun character. And just, constantly, inserting himself into the story when necessary and having fun while doing it. As I said, in season 5 was a shake-up because it really screwed a lot of things up. Because they had finished the story and they had to come up with something different. And so they basically the station gets a new captain because Sheridan has to do other things, which is played by Tracy Scoggin, his Captain Elizabeth Lockley, and she's great. She's once again very different. She is very Earth Alliance orientated, more so than say Sinclair or Sheridan ended up being. Just interesting. She didn't get as much time to really shine as much as the other characters did. But great character, good actor. She's been in a heap of stuff too. At the end of this, I'll put a whole bunch of stills of all the actors. Unfortunately, it's very sad that quite a few of them we've lost over the years, and it really does put a dampener on them doing new projects and that, because so many of the characters have passed on, which is once again very sad. That being said, I do believe the show has probably gone as far as it really needs to. There were rumors about a new series a few years back. That's ended. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't really need it to happen personally. If you just watch the 5 seasons on their own, the pilot and the 5 seasons, you get enough. If you add the telemovies they added, you get some more. One of the telemovies adds the into the new series Crusade, but Crusade doesn't get to go anywhere. And then, as I said, there was about 3 projects afterwards, which one was started off as another pilot, didn't go anywhere. They did another thing called The Lost Tales, which was kind of cool. A couple of stories that sort of answer some questions, fill in some gaps. A lot of CGI in that one. And then they did an animated project a couple of years ago, which was pretty neat. But yeah, a lot of really good stuff that J. Michael Straczynski gave us, and I think like the entire encompassing universe of Babylon 5, all parts, series, movies, Crusade, all of that, it gave us a really, really hugely fleshed out universe, and I think it was really, really successful. So Babylon 5, beautifully written, really, really detailed, and just to give you one more example on how well this is written, and how Straczynski's knowledge of everything from dot to dot everything in between, where it was going, works. I sat a friend of mine through 3 episodes of Babylon 5 because he asked what it was like, and I said, I'll play 3 episodes for you and see what you think. Now, in season 1, they do an episode called Babylon Squared, where you find out what actually happened to Babylon 4, to an extent. It's part 1 of a 3-part story. So I sat him through the first part, and I said, what do you think of that? And he went, wow, that's really good. I went, cool. There's 2 more parts to this. So I put in the, this was on VHS at the time, I put in the next cassette and played it. And anyway, the story continues from this point. It sort of goes back and forth a bit, and then played the 3rd part. And I said, "What did you think of that?" And he went, "Well, that was really, really good." And then I told him that the first part was in season 1, and the 2nd and 3rd parts were in season 3. And he went, "Seriously?" And I went, "Yeah." And he said, "The only way you really can tell is because Jeffrey Sinclair comes back in the 2nd and 3rd episodes, and John Sheridan is the captain of the ship." And he didn't really think about that too much. But once I pointed that out, he was like, "Oh, well, that makes a lot more sense." But 3 random episodes, a 3-parter over 3 seasons, and it just flowed beautifully. And I said, I don't know any other show that's ever done something like that, been able to pull it off that flawlessly, really. I mean, I'm sure other shows have tried. The other thing also about Straczynski's writing, he was the guy who sort of really got me into season-long story arcs. Because before that, I was used to episodic television, and I love episodic television, I really do. But the idea that this isn't going to be resolved this week, or even next week, or maybe even by the end of the season, you're in for the long haul here, and so strap yourselves in, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. And that's sort of how Babylon 5 is, and it really is, like as I said, halfway through season 2, they start the foundation for what they refer to as the Shadow War, and it goes through all of season 2, all of season 3, and about the first third, I think, of season 4. And yeah, it is a ride and a half. It really is. Now, other shows started doing that later on. In later seasons of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, they did the whole Dominion War, and that was great. It was really good. But yeah, it really just knocked home that this was an important story, and it couldn't be told in like 2 to 3 episodes. So Straczynski really succeeded in so many things, and he did stuff that I got used to in television, which, as I said, series-long story arcs. I think without him, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed something like 24 so much, where it's like this whole season is one story, get used to it. So yeah, really a lot to be thankful for with his writing. And I started looking more into everything he did as well, like afterwards. Like, he wrote a bunch of books set in Babylon 5, fleshing out stuff. I wish they did some Crusade ones to finish that story off, but he wrote some comic books, he did some Superman, he did some he's currently writing Captain America, funnily enough. I haven't actually read any of his Captain America, but I am curious. And he did another science fiction series, which I may talk about down the track, called Jeremiah, which is really good too. But, so yeah, Babylon 5 hits every mark for me. Like, it's everything I wanted in a show. It's, well written, great cast, interesting characters, really interesting characters. All characters have flaws. The CGI is pretty good for its time. It still stands up. Space battles are fantastic. The aesthetic of the show, the makeup of aliens is unique. The fact that each races, starships are very unique. That like no two look alike. Is brilliant. Everything about it. The music is just amazing. So yeah, Babylon 5 for me is, one of my definitely on my list. Probably my top 10 favorite TV shows. It really is. But yeah, one of those rare things that come along every now and then that I was happy to really get involved with. So you have it, Babylon 5, Our Last Best Hope for Peace. Have you seen it? Is it a show that you like? Did you get into it as much as I did? Are you more of a Star Trek person than a Babylon 5, or are you like me that like everything? I'd love to know in the chat. I'd like to, keep the conversation going, and yeah, just let me know, whether it was a show that you've seen, whether it's a show you still love. If you haven't seen it, I really do recommend it. I'd basically watch the pilot, watch the series, and then check out the movies. Like, there is a movie called In the Beginning, which they did after the show ended. It does answer a heck of a lot of the questions on the Earth-Minbari War. If you haven't watched it before, don't watch that first. It is set first. Watch it afterwards. It's good to just learn that stuff little by little as the show goes on. And then once you're done, you can go back and watch In the Beginning. The other movies, as I said, they're just adventures. One's set early season 4, another one's set just before the end of season 5, and then the last one, which is In the Line, I think it was called, is the backdoor pilot to Crusade. So yeah, all good stuff. But yeah, so Babylon 5. Love it. I still love it. I think it's really good. I hope I haven't sounded too overly passionate about it, but yeah, I think I do think you should check it out if you got the time and you got access to it. Give it a go. I think you'll really enjoy it if you love science fiction and especially space operas. Beautifully constructed universe and a lot of fun. So with that, I will leave you to your day, your evening, your afternoon, your morning, whatever time of the day it is that you are watching this. Thank you for checking this out, and I hope I haven't dragged on too much talking about Babylon 5. So, like and subscribe if you're that way inclined, and if you know people that are interested in Babylon 5 or science fiction, maybe share this video. If you believe in life after love. I have to make the share quote otherwise. But until next time, keep on watching, keep on listening, keep on reading, keep on gaming. Whatever you like to do, keep on doing it. Keep yourselves entertained because there's lots and lots of great stuff out there. So until next time, bye bye.